Yeah, regular place.
History's being made here today. We're at Disneyland with 60,000 people from all over the world awaiting the official start of the Interstate Batteries Great American Race. 100 of the world's most beautiful antique machines racing for 11 days over 3,500 miles across the United States to the Statue of Liberty for a purse of $250,000. It's the world's greatest old car race. So as California Governor George Deukmejian drops the green flag on the 1911 Oldsmobile of Curtis Graff, so begins an 11-day, 15-state cross-country odyssey from the Magic Kingdom to the Big Apple. Great racers and their fantastic machines come from 25 states and from Japan, Great Britain, Belgium, and Canada. All of them share a common goal: to finish. Because to finish is to win. Whether they drive Pontiac or Packard, Bentley or BMW, Ford or Flint, they are all a part of this adventure of a lifetime that is the Interstate Batteries Great American Race. The freeways of Southern California are the first obstacle for the racers before daring the high deserts on the road to Palm Springs. The 3,500-mile route is made up of 11 separate races, ending daily in Palm Springs, the Grand Canyon, Albuquerque, Amarillo, Tulsa, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Columbus, Alexandria, and Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, before the Grand Championship run for $170,000 in prize money from Wilkes-Barre to New York City. When we come back, we'll meet an American legend. In less than an hour, the thermometer has jumped from a pleasant 78 degrees at Disneyland to a murderous 115 here on the high desert. It's the first of many challenges. Paul, what was the problem here? What is the problem?
Blew a head gasket. See the water on the spark plug?
Yeah.
Blew a head gasket in between the cylinders. Broke a head.
How do you know it's a gasket, not the head itself?
20 years of working on cars.
So at this point, you're going to wait for the tow truck?
Yeah. Because I ain't pushing it.
So Passport Transport, known among the competitors as Jaws, takes aboard its first victim. Score 1 DNF for the desert heat. A DNF, or did not finish score, is the result of a competitor running more than 1 hour late, missing a scoring checkpoint, or not finishing. 2 DNFs, and you're out of the money. In 1908, 6 automobiles lined up in Times Square to run the first great race. It would become the longest automobile race ever, 22,000 miles from New York to Paris. Starting in the dead of winter, they took on mud, snow, and ice, driving over wagon ruts, railroad ties, through rivers and over roads unfit for motor travel, via San Francisco to Japan by boat, across Siberia to Moscow, down to Berlin, and finally Paris. Against impossible odds, it was a feat of endurance, perhaps never to be equaled by man and machine. And thundering out of the past is the winner, the original 1907 New York to Paris Thomas Flyer, the grandfather of America's racing heritage. Initials carved on its wooden body, the weather-beaten gray paint, oil stains, and other assorted scars are all worn like badges of courage. the lady behind the wheel feels the pressure of driving an American legend.
Well, you know, I'm not really nervous. I can't put nervous on it, but there's a lot of emotion tied up this year. This car belongs to the world and everybody that loves antique cars, and so I feel the weight of the responsibility, I think, is what I'm feeling.
Randy Harding and Kirk Hill, a couple of good old boys from Jackson, Mississippi, are attempting a great race first, running a 1913 Model T Ford just to prove it can be done.
We're really just out here to see how well a Model T can keep up and scare some of these folks into behaving a little better themselves. But as far as really competitive, that's stretching it a little bit.
Just hours before the start, mechanics and technical inspectors swarmed around, over, under, and into these vintage machines. For some, it was a last-second systems check. For all, an inspection to certify compliance with great race safety requirements and rules sanctioned by the International Motorsports Association. Trial by Inferno is the order of the day, and the survivors have a newfound respect for the perils of the Mojave.
This temperature is murder. It's really hot.
I just want to get to Palm Springs.
It's awful hot out here. The car's getting a little bit hot, and so are we.
The Great American Race scoring system is very basic. Prior to the event, the route was measured and timed by computer to 1/100th of a second. The competitors, following exact instructions, are attempting to match the computer's time. They are timed at 6 of these scoring controls, or checkpoints, each day, and they're penalized each second that they're early or late. As in golf, the lowest score wins.
This is Peter Lang from Riverside in a 1970 Hudson. Congratulations! And we're glad you're here, Peter. Congratulations!
Remember, the first car is not necessarily the winner, because in the great race, the competition is not car against car, but man and old car against the clock.
From Palm Springs, California, this is the Interstate Batteries Great American Race Hotline. After red-hot temperatures through the Mojave Desert, we are through with the first day of competition. Tom Lester's Team Lester, the 1909 Mercedes, finished third today, 22 seconds off perfect time. Second place to Alan Travis and Wayne Stanfield in a 1916 Mitchell at 19 seconds. And the winner of the first day of the Great American Race, Jack Casson and Elliott Woodward in their 1936 Buick at 15 seconds, the defending champion of the 1985 race.
You're still very unique in that you drive and navigate at the same time. Is that I can't understand why you're the only one who does it and you're the only one who's successful at it.
Neither do I. It's very easy. Everybody thinks there's some major difference. I don't understand how people keep the car on time from the right-hand side. How can you do that when you don't have the accelerator under your foot and you don't have the speedometer? As far as I'm concerned, it's them that's weird. What we do is easy.
Can you give me names as your toughest competition?
Yeah, there are probably 5 people that scare me badly. Ron Hazlett, Dick Eckelbarger, Ty Holmquist, John Klassen, and I'm not going to name the 5th one so that way I don't offend anybody. Could be anybody.
Woodward's concern comes as no surprise. He just named defending champions and leading money winners from past great races.
He took the $100,000 check home last year and donated it to the Prince of Peace Abbey.
Congratulations, Billy. You did it. Billy in his 1935 Alfa Romeo from Milan, Italy. Congratulations, Billy. Your countryman, John Boosman.
Still waiting at the finish is the crew of Japan's 1936 Datsun.
Here he comes. I think. That him, that's the man, Tokyo Suzuki. From Tokyo, Japan. Congratulations. Let's give the big hand. Come on, let's hear it for him.
Let's make that 84 survivors. The little Datsun has made it. With a maximum speed of 42 miles per hour downhill with a tailwind and the great race averaging speeds of 50, staying competitive for DOT 16 will be nearly impossible. More of the Mojave and the Grand Canyon are ahead. Sunrise in Palm Springs, and it's already over 100 degrees. Not a good sign for the 92 starters about to face what may be their toughest day. It's back out into the Mojave, a quick pit stop at Needles, and lunch in Kingman, Arizona. Next is the steep climb to the Grand Canyon, 420 miles and not an easy inch in it. Great American semiconductor navigator Bill Watson is breaking in his new driver, Ken Phillips of Motorola.
And we're going to go down Desert Center Airport, and then we come up to 50.
Yeah, for 2 minutes
and then 50, right. Change every speed to 40, so we'll be...
The first to fall victim to the Mojave today is the 06 Cadillac of Haystack Haydock from Electric City, Washington. Missing a checkpoint yesterday resulting in a DNF, and today's breakdown puts the 06 out of the money. The $25,000 oldest car to finish race is now between the legendary 1907 Thomas Flyer and Hoosier Frank Klepps and his remarkable 1905 Stevens Duryea. This early racing machine hasn't missed a beat yet. The Desert Heat may be too much for Curly Walter and his 1933 250cc Rudge Whitworth motorcycle.
I managed to break a push rod.
A push rod?
And operates the valve gear, and of course it's broken, so I have to stop. But I've got a spare engine in my trailer, but now it's a question you wait until the support vehicle comes along, 1, 2, 3 hours. By the time I get to Colorado, it'll be 7, 8 o'clock tonight. By the time I got the engine to pieces, the other engine on, it'll be 3 o'clock in the morning, ready to go at 5.
Joe and Judith Atkinson out of Arlington, Texas. Joe is one of America's favorite gospel singers.
The Great Race is a favorite here, and it's mutual. Kingman, Arizona means great hospitality and more, an escape from the Mojave. Just outside of Kingman, the good old boys have thrown a shoe on the Tin Lizzie. Is the problem as obvious as it appears?
It's, yeah.
Flat tire. But
Yeah.
blowout or just a leak or what?
Yeah, it blew out. I was glad it was the tire, though, and not the engine.
The Desert Heat finally gave way to cooler temperatures as the surviving teams made the climb to the Grand Canyon.
Barney Rawson of Las Cruces, New Mexico, in a 1931 Chrysler Roadster. Barney finishes race number 2. Congratulations, Barney. A great job today. Barney Rawson.
Ken Downing and Mark Burdick in a 1927 Pierce Arrow took the flag only 14 seconds off of perfect time. They'll pick up a first place and $5,000. Burdick's father, Dick, and navigator Wayne Bell in a classy Bentley Speedster from Rosanke, Texas, are right behind with a 16-second score for second place and $2,000. And Tom Lester, driving his one-of-a-kind 1909 Mercedes, takes third, just 20 seconds off perfect time. The second day of the Great American Race is over, and the drivers are glad that the California and Arizona deserts are behind them. They're also glad to have this behind them, the Grand Canyon. This is where they'll be spending the night. The Mojave claimed a total of 29 DNFs, so for many, it's time to burn the midnight oil.
Carburetor. We've got a little basic problem with the carburetor. It was popping and banging, so we took it apart and cleaned it. And now we've got a little bit of a clutch problem. Jenny's having a tough time getting it in and out of gear. But everything else is working good. The car is fine, good shape, and runs good. If we can just solve the clutch, I think we'll be okay. This car will definitely run tomorrow. Jenny won't allow us to not have it run.
Newt does double duty, competing in his 1934 Packard daily, and then at night helping his wife, Jenny, keep the Flyer on the road. Dot 16 is coming in on a rope for their second DNF, and the Japanese hopes for a great race victory end.
As a result of those two DNFs, he won't be able to participate in the race proper for the rest of the course. However, he would like to run the rest of the race along with the race, although he may not be officially participating in it. Would that be all right with you?
We'll make some special arrangements so you can join in with us, and we'd be greatly disappointed if you didn't go.
今日グランドカニオンに着いたらすぐ出発できるように渡しますから。Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. ありがとう。Thank you very much.
Use the Japanese spirit and try and continue the race tomorrow.
I know you will. I had no doubt.
Every day's a new day in this year's Great American Race, and today looks like a winner. Weather clear, temperatures mild, track fast. The 390-mile journey from the Grand Canyon to Albuquerque will take in some spectacular scenery. Through the Painted Desert, into Tuba City, en route to Gallup, New Mexico for lunch. Racing to make up time, Dick Burdick puts the move on Curtis Graff and his 1911 Oldsmobile. John, you're a mess.
I certainly am. We had a little problem, and it wasn't even our fault. We were going through a little narrow underpass under the freeway, and there was a puddle there. The assigned speed was 20. We were going 20, no problem there. And another car chose that very time to decide to pass us. And they went by about 45. I think they were about 3 minutes late because they were supposed to be 3 minutes ahead of us. They went through this little tunnel about 45, went through the puddle, left-hand side. I'm the navigator, but since we have a right-hand drive car, I just happen to be sitting on the left side, and that's why the left side of me is covered with mud. That's why the left side of our car here is covered with mud. Got my watches. Both of my watches were covered with water. It was a mess.
This guy out of Rosario, Texas, Mr. Dick Burdick and Wayne Hamilton, a 1924 Bentley Speedster. Get your hands together. Come on, Gallup. Come on now. These guys are working hard. Hello, America! All right now. Car number 48.
Batteries Great American Race Hotline from Albuquerque, New Mexico. We had a tie of 31 seconds today between the 27 Pierce Arrow of Ken Downing and Mark Burdick and the 34 Packard of Newt Withers and Bruce Gazan. In old car racing, the tie goes to the oldest car, so Downing and Burdick win.
We just been ticking, you know, we're working together just like it's got to be done to do good in it, and you know, you got it takes both of you, your wits going all the time, and one of you slips, the other one hopefully catches it, you know.
Finishing late, Yukio Suzuki has brought Dot 16 in under its own power.
Congratulations. Let's hear it for it. Come on, turn on for the man. We're happy to have you here, Yukio. That's Let's give him a big round of applause. Now they can hear you. Let's let them hear you.
As if the driving portion of the Great American Race weren't enough, usually at the last stop of the day, these fragile old relics need more than a little pampering. Sometimes it's major overhauls, and that's when drivers and navigators turn into all-night mechanics. Don, you're no stranger to problems again this year, are you?
Today we had our overdrive go out. No, it was yesterday. And we had one flown in here to Albuquerque, and they're putting it together right now. Our gas tank broke. That's up being welded. Our tire went flat. That's over at the tire place. I'm sure we'll be here most of the night getting the thing running again.
Everything you just have to make for this. They only made about 25 of this model, and there's only 6 of them left, so everything we've done so far we've had to make. And
we're going to take a look at the bearings on the rods. It got pretty hot the other day going through Needles and Blythe, and it was okay today, but we're not sure about it, so we're going to take a look at it.
You look tired. I am tired. I want to go to bed, but I don't want to leave them alone down here. I think they need my support.
But after an all-night vigil, their hard work and persistence usually pays off. 88 teams still have it together, and they're headed for Amarillo, Texas. 348 miles via historic Santa Fe and Tucumcari. The Flyer is sporting a new radiator, compliments of Blondie, the $1 million parts car supplied by the William F. Harrah Museum. They were twins prior to the 1908 race. 22,000 miles can be tough on a car, huh? Along with the Flyer, another world record holder is rumbling across the U.S., Goodyear's Wingfoot Express, a 1917 Packard truck.
Well, in 1917, all trucks traveled on solid rubber tires. Goodyear thought that pneumatic tires could be made to do the job, but the trucking industry wouldn't believe it. But in order to prove that they could do so, they bought a fleet of trucks and started an interstate truck line equipped with pneumatic tires. In 1918, Goodyear set a world's record driving a truck like this across the country in 13 days and 5 hours. We hope to do it now in 11 days.
The Wingfoot Express has a running start on the record, and it's looking good as it rolls into Santa Fe.
Just outside Tucumcari, New Mexico, the legendary Thomas Flyer is down. An 80-year-old retaining ring that keeps tire and wheel together has blown off at 50 miles per hour. The last time we saw Jenny Withers and Scott Bergen, they were searching the roadside desperately for the part.
Jenny, this seems like one of the tougher problems you've had so far.
Yeah, you can always fix something, but if you can't find the part, you're out of luck. Yeah. This lock ring could be anywhere in these bushes. Who knows?
And what is the lock ring? Tell us.
The lock ring holds the tire on the wheel. They had these on all old cars, and the tube blew the lock ring off, and so it could have gone off at great force. It could be out 20 feet, it could be 5 feet off the road, and we don't know what side.
The 1,300 grueling miles have taken their toll. To date, the scores reveal a total of 61 DNFs, or did not finish scores. 79 out of 96 starters still have a shot at the $250,000 purse. The culprit? Preparation.
I feel we did our homework before we came. We tried it out, drove 1,000 miles before we left home, and we got it out at Albuquerque and drove it to Flagstaff, loaded up and took it back on out to Needles where it was hot, and got it out again. And
we just keep refining stuff and find something that don't work and do it different, and we're just finally getting some combinations together.
After a promising rookie year, Rex Gardner of Emporia, Kansas has put it together between Albuquerque and Amarillo, taking third place with a 35-second score. Veterans Newt Withers and Bruce Pizan chalked up another #2 finish with a 33-second mark. But the big news is that Team Lester picked up today where it left off in '85, winning first place and $5,000 with a score of 28 seconds. There's good news and there's bad news for Jenny Withers and the Thomas Flyer. The bad news is that the team failed to finish today. One more DNS and they're out. The good news is that a new retaining ring has been located for the Flyers wheel assembly, and it will be back in the race tomorrow.
Coming up, 7 days and 2,200 miles to go. $200,000 is still in the balance. It's an early start for Tulsa. The checkpoint crews are heading out at 4:30 a.m., and Dot 16, determined to reach the Big Apple, is right behind them. Race 5 to Tulsa is 365 miles of rolling hills, and it looks like pleasant weather. Stops today include Clinton, Oklahoma City, the state capital, and Chandler. We've said before that the Great American Race is not a race so much as it is a car rally. The object is not to be there first, but to be there on time. That's why they put a lot of stress on navigating. Well, we're going to try this navigating thing out for ourselves and compare our scores against the pros. But my driver, Russ, and I are no fools. We're going to use a 1986 Pontiac Trans Am with air conditioning and cruise control. We'll find out if it's as tough as they really make it out to be. We'll check with you later. Okay, now there should be a rest area coming up. Okay. According to my stopwatch, it's about 7 minutes away.
At 50 miles an hour.
According to the side of the road, it's about 2 minutes away. Well, I don't know how those guys in the old cars do it without air conditioning, do you? Getting chilly. You know, we should hit this mile marker in 6 seconds. And if we do, that 49 miles an hour is the ticket. Okay, go 50 miles an hour. Just go right on 50 miles an hour. That I'm telling you. 51 didn't work out, 49 didn't work out. If you go 50, if that doesn't work out, I'm throwing in my scratch pad and getting a paper route. We're looking for Oklahoma 224. That was mile marker 19 there. So okay. We're looking for exit 20. Okay, here's the sign. Okay. Okay, take the exit. Somehow I'm forgetting how my stopwatch is supposed to come into play at this point. Following the instructions wasn't as easy as we thought. We finished the first leg 2 minutes late and progressively got worse. We scored approximately 17 minutes off on the second leg, and then we got lost on the third leg, finishing up with an embarrassing 32 minutes and 42 seconds. With daily winners scoring less than 30 seconds for a whole day, winning in the Great American Race in a 50 to 80-year-old machine is an incredible feat. From the start, the leaders in Esprit de Corps have been 4-year veterans Dr. Robert Fuson and the crew on the 1912 American LaFrance. Always a crowd pleaser and an inspiration to fellow competitors, this team has performed whatever miracles necessary to keep the LaFrance rolling. Tune-ups at 50 miles an hour or push-starting 3 tons of machine. The first 2 years of the Great American Race, our heroes in red always managed to at least finish. But now it looks like their resiliency and resourcefulness has come to an end. A crankshaft has split in two in Cow Creek, Oklahoma.
Hi, it's a crank gun.
There it went.
Yeah, it's busted.
Well, that's the end of the line. Party is over.
Yeah.
It takes about 3 weeks to hand cut all the bearings. We make all of our own bearings and so forth. So, you know, I'll have to whittle a crankshaft out and make new bearings, and that's some weeks away.
But there was something about being stuck in Cow Creek, Oklahoma, and knowing the obligation of just being the fire truck that makes the impossible possible. They found a machine shop, worked all night welding the crankshaft, and reassembled the motor in just 10 hours, just in time to get to Wichita and start the next day's 12 hours of racing.
How many hours of sleep would you say you've had lately?
Oh, my. I don't know. Not very much. I haven't been in bed in 2 days.
I don't know, about an hour and a half in the last 2 days. But I'm going to sleep tonight.
1,500 miles later, the crankshaft repairs gave way, stopping Thunder in its tracks. Determined Eugene and crew went to work in another attempt to pull off a miracle. After being towed to a machine shop in Brighton, Michigan, they found the block had been literally blown apart. There would be no more miracles. Living proof that to finish is to win, Doc Fuson's team is back leading the assault on New York.
Doc, you've got to be particularly happy you've made it past Cow Creek.
Well, this is a big day for us. We're looking forward to getting totally out of Oklahoma because we're going to have to stay here. Nice people, you know, but we don't want to remind ourselves of the broken crankshaft.
How have the people been treating the truck this year, the folks who see it coming by?
Well, with a certain amount of reverence, like somebody's just returned from the grave.
We're going for New York City, and for us, that's winning. Okay. It doesn't matter what our time is. As long as we get to New York City, that's a major win for us.
Eddie Schuler from Morrison, Illinois, in a 1924 Chrysler. Bo Hamilton is the navigator. Congratulations, Eddie. You did great today. Eddie is 72 years young. Willie Vernon from Sierra Belgium, 1934 Alfa Romeo.
77 teams are taking the checkered flag in Tulsa, with the rookies from Kingman, Arizona surprising everybody and scoring a third, only 24 seconds away from perfect score. Veterans Jim Hampton of El Paso, Texas, and Frank Barnett did 4 seconds better with a 20, taking second. Defending champions Elliott Woodward and Jack Casson win their second daily race, scoring 15 seconds off of perfect time, pushing their winnings so far to $10,000.
Do you think that this is any kind of a lead-in to what's coming up?
Yeah, I'm afraid it is. That close. You know, 1 or 2 seconds between first and second is terrifying, and I think it'll be that way pretty much every day.
What you're telling me is then is that the competition is very stiff.
The competition is unbelievably stiff, yes. It is terrifying.
The weatherman predicts rain for the 6th race, but there isn't a cloud in the sky. 400 miles of country roads are ahead, with stops in Springfield and Rolla before the finish in St. Louis. Jerry Lacey and Tommy Rosser of Houston, Texas, are leading the way into Missouri in their original 1929 Lincoln touring car. International great race teams include a 1935 BMW Roadster driven by Baron Christian von Konzendorf and navigated by Baron Arnold von Bohlen, and a rare 1934 Alfa Romeo driven by Willie Verniman and navigated by Jan Callens. Also from Belgium, Jan and Yves Holzman in a 1930 Model A, and from Canada, Ray Fowler and Gene Dwelsdorf in a 1930 Chevy Dirt Track Roadster. Springfield is turned on. The hillbilly hospitality of the Ozark country is unbeatable. After a break for lunch, it's detailed instructions and back on the clock. With instructions in America's English versus the Queen's English, the challenge for the Barons is getting there. Already scoring 2 DNFs due to mechanical failures, the Spirit of Rolla has it together for a hometown hero's welcome. It's back on the road through the Ozarks in a short 100 miles to St. Louis. No worse for wear and tear, the Barons found the finish line with a respectable score of 3 minutes and 56 seconds.
Hello, America! Boy, that's great. Here's Cliff Palmer out of Walnut, California in a Model A pickup truck. All right, everybody gather around here. This is a momentous occasion from Tokyo, Japan. Mr. Suzuki is driving the 1936 Datsun. Welcome these people to America. Let's give them a great big hand. They're all the way from Tokyo.
87 teams are ready for the run to Indianapolis. It's 334 miles of farm roads via Bloomington, Illinois. And the last competition of the day, a lap around the famed Brickyard in Indy.
Now, you've got a convertible in this race. Looks like you might get a little rain tonight. Is that going to bother you?
No, the only problem is we will get wet. That's the only problem. One thing about it won't rain on just one car, and it rains on us all, so we're all equal.
This is the Interstate Batteries Great American Race Hotline. Great racers bound for Indianapolis, Indiana today are battling torrential rains of cloudburst proportions. The open cockpit cars are getting it from passing 18-wheelers too, making driving almost impossible. Add the fact that route instructions are a very soggy mess, and you can believe that this day's great race is a battle for survival.
The rain slacked up for lunch in Bloomington, where there's at least 10,000 die-hard fans.
When we were coming into Bloomington, there was a downpour. I was driving about 50 miles an hour and couldn't see. I'm in a new Pontiac Fiero, and the wipers are going like crazy, and I couldn't see, and the old cars just keep on going. I mean, they go rain or shine, and the crowd turnout with this kind of weather is just fantastic. In fact, it's a good thing we had some rain, because I don't think we'd have been able to get through downtown Bloomington.
There's no relief. After drying out in Bloomington, the racers face an extremely difficult course on narrow roads with lots of turns and speed changes, guided by poorly marked signs. All of this in a downpour. In spite of running 300 miles in a rainstorm, a lap at Indy is still a highlight for the teams. We understand the Great American Race set a record today as the only competition ever run at Indy in the rain. Ken Griggs' Model A racer looks at home on the famed 500 track. And the Barons are after a track record. A big party, Indy style, is rained out, but it's not keeping the fans away.
We had a wonderful time. A little bit wet, but that's part of it. Did it rain?
The rugged flyer, Jenny and Scott, had a taste of the first great race.
Jenny, you look okay now, but today must have been one of the more brutal afternoons you've ever spent.
It was terrible. I'll tell you, we sat in puddles 1.5 inches deep, Scott and I. The last 2 hours, we were both shaking so hard. We were so cold with the wind hitting us. We were just holding on and couldn't wait to get in. I'll tell you what, we know exactly how George Schuster felt when he was going across Siberia or wherever he went with that car, because he went through everything. We've only gone through heat and water. We haven't got any snow yet.
A short and hopefully dry day is coming up.
Some familiar faces beat the bad weather into Indianapolis yesterday. Top prize money of $5,000 went to Denny Kakaline and Ty Holmquist in that 09 Mercedes of Tom Lester. They were only 5 seconds ahead of Wayne Stanfield and Alan Travis. Third place went to Newt Withers. He's in the 34 Packard. Yesterday was rough, and today is a welcome respite. Only 180 miles of rallying into Columbus, Ohio. The 180-mile run is short, but it won't be easy. Ahead are more winding back roads through Ohio, with stops including Richmond, Indiana, and Dayton.
En route to Richmond, the drizzle is no problem for Travis and Stanfield. They nailed a perfect score of 0 for the first leg. Coming on strong, rookie navigator Janine Jones with Dad Stanley at the wheel is only 1 second off perfect time. The 80-year-old Stevens Duryea is handling the challenge with the Flyer in pursuit. For good old boy Randy Harding, stops like Richmond make the Great American Race worth the sacrifice.
We have managed to come on this thing, but it has drained us a good deal, and I sold one of my favorite automobiles that took a couple of years of my life to work up, but this trip's worth it. It's really something, and yeah, we'll be paying for it for a couple of years from now. Thank goodness for credit cards.
The forerunner of BMW's racing heritage is at home on the back roads.
This particular BMW was the first racing car built by BMW, and there were only 102 built, and it was the most advanced car in Europe in the time between 1935 and 1936.
This is the Interstate Batteries Great American Race Hotline. An accident-free record that stood for 3 years ended today on Chicken Bristle Road near Dayton, Ohio, when Newt Withers' 1934 Goodyear Packard was forced off the road by an unidentified motorist that slid into a tree. Withers and navigator Bruce Gazan were only shaken up, but the Packard may be out of the race.
The car is like a tank. The frame on that Packard is almost like a 2-ton truck. So thank God for a sturdy car, because if we'd have been in a smaller car or something, we'd have had serious problems.
What is your major concern at this point?
Well, at this point, my major concern is trying to, of course, I'm just a real thrasher, so I'd like to finish the event.
The Spirit of Columbus rookie Robin Fosnaugh in his 1936 Cadillac is leading the field home. 3-year veterans Jim Chafee and Tom Sparks in Money's 1930 V16 Cadillac scored 33 seconds for third place and $1,000. Team Lester and the 09 Mercedes, they're tough. 18 seconds out in second. And Travis and Stanfield pushed their winnings to $10,000 with an incredible 14-second day and first place.
At this point, everybody's pretty well figured out what they have to do. So it's the guys that make the fewest number of mistakes, make the fewest wrong turns, and just don't miss any signs. So that's what you have to do. Concentrate 100% all day.
With 2,500 miles down and 2 days until the Grand Championship run for the $100,000, the strain is beginning to show. Race number 9, Columbus to Alexandria, Virginia, and we're down to 72 starters. It's the longest day, 430 miles, passing through 5 states via Wheeling, West Virginia, and Bedford, Pennsylvania. Sooner or later, moving parts fail, whether it's a Super Tech 200-mile-per-hour racer or a 70-year-old Mitchell. Racers have a phrase for it. Some days you eat the bear, and some days the bear eats you.
We got a real bad knocking noise coming along the freeway, and can't afford not to make it to New York somehow. So we have to fix it today and then get it back in it tomorrow, you know.
Finishing in New York with only one did-not-finish day is a prerequisite for winning any prize money. Now, this means one more DNF would cost Travis and Stanfield $10,000 in prize money won to date.
This is the Great American Race Hotline. Newt Withers' 34 Goodyear Packard convertible, damaged yesterday in an accident on Chicken Bristle Road, is somewhat miraculously back in the Great American Race today. The Withers team worked all night and, helped by other great race crews, pounded, beat, and straightened the machine back into running order. Withers said today, "It ain't pretty, but it runs."
With the longest day behind them, Alexandria, Virginia was a welcome sight for the top three finishers. Great American Semiconductor team leader Jack Beadle, with Bill Watson Jr. navigating, both rookies, hung on to take third with 43 seconds for $1,000. Marv Schmidt, in his 36 Dodge with rookie navigator Gail Sublett, took second and $2,000 with a 36-second score. Veteran Ken Griggs and rookie Margot Culp scored a 35 for first place and $5,000. Team Dot 16 is still bringing up the rear, but shows no signs of giving up.
The Great American Race seems to be the embodiment of the American spirit of tenacity and pioneerism. That's why when our drivers were looking for a place to stop on the 4th of July, what better than the nation's capital?
85 vintage machines are on display on the White House ellipse, giving the teams a chance to catch their breath and reflect on the 3,000 miles they've left behind. Facing adversity of monumental proportions, incredible heat, drenching rain, and mechanical failures, these great racers and their old cars are something special.
It's the enthusiasm amongst competitors. Although they are competing for a very high price, you would never have the feeling that they are cheating on each other or that they are trying to stop somebody else to continue this race.
These guys are mechanical geniuses. I've never seen anything like it. Their talents would never have been known, at least the way I know them, until you get into this thing. When you get guys overhauling cars overnight and doing valve jobs on the side of the road, and I mean, like Eddie Schuler, I was talking to him and ran into him in the hall in Indianapolis, and I said, Eddie, how you doing? He's 74 years old. He said, I'm kind of tired, Norm. I said, I can understand it. I'm kind of tired. I'm not even competing. He said, yeah, I had a flat today in the rain. I said, you did? Yeah. And he said, yeah, and the jack slipped in the mud. And I said, he said, but Norm, I got it done in 13 minutes and back on the road. 74 years old, and the guy's got a lady navigator. They just banged it out in that 24 Chrysler, and he's heading for Indy. Now, that's wild. He's the kind of guy that made America. He's the kind of guy that was in the covered wagons.
Race number 10 is here. It's only a 230-mile run to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania via Harrisburg. Travis and Stanfield have a dilemma. They can nurse the Mitchell into New York, and they're guaranteed $10,000 in previous winnings. But if they go all out for the $100,000, break, and do not finish, they'll forfeit their 10 grand.
You know, we'll take it apart tonight after today's running. Now, after today's running, if that piece of brass that we put in yesterday is still okay, then we may go for it.
Rolling into Harrisburg, the Flyer is holding up, and Goodyear's Wingfoot Express is only 400 miles and 24 hours away from breaking its world record set in 1918. The top three winners yesterday came out of nowhere to establish a brand new ballgame. Novice and rookie teams are starting to take it away from the pros.
Some of the guys, they'll get in the top 20, and then they'll get a 13th, and they'll get an 11th, and they're competing against the best in the world. That in itself is exciting, but all they got to do is get hot on day 11, and they could win $100,000.
The overpasses are packed with fans 15 miles outside of Wilkes-Barre. 80,000 turned out to welcome the great racers and join in Wilkes-Barre's Great American Festival.
This is C.T. Lee from Amarillo, Texas, and Jay Neely, a 1936 Oldsmobile Beautiful, named after Martin, driving in town. John Vegas, the navigator, a 1935 Ford Deluxe Coupe, sponsored Interstate Batteries Great American Race Hotline. It's Team Lester again in Wilkes-Barre, PA. The $1 million Mercedes finished only 10 seconds off schedule today for its third victory in 10 daily races. That stamps the Florida team as among the favorites for tomorrow's championship run to New York City, with the winner getting $100,000. California Jack Cassin's 36 Buick is also a three-time winner and a favorite, as are Texans Ken Downing and Mark Burdick, who have won twice, and one-race winners Alan Travis of Arizona and Louisianian Ken Griggs.
The sun hasn't yet risen on July the 5th, but our drivers sure have, and they are off on their final day, their biggest day. 240 miles of backcountry rallying for a first-place prize of $100,000. You're a little nervous, aren't you?
Yeah. This is a fantasy I've been working with all year long, practicing for, and we're almost there.
The concentration level on a $100,000 day has got to be very keen, and you guys are going on, what, 2 or 3 hours sleep. Do you think that's going to be a factor?
Definitely. A lot of things are riding on this, yes.
Do you think the car is ready to take on whatever they're ready to dish out?
Well, yesterday we were easy on it, but it didn't give us any big trouble. So I think it's ready to go. We're going to go for it no matter what. If it starts clunking, it's going to clunk all the way to New York.
Elliot, tell me your feelings going into this final day.
I'm terrified. What are yours?
Do you feel any pressure?
Lots of pressure. My middle name is Pressure right now.
85 teams are competing on the final day. 240 miles of narrow country roads through Pennsylvania and New Jersey to the checkered flag in New York City. Of the 85 teams, 72 have a shot at the $170,000. 13 teams have more than one DNF, and they're still running, though, just to finish. Only 70 miles from the checkered flag, Dot 16 is down. The rear spring is broken, throwing the differential out of alignment and locking up the rear wheel. Determined to finish, the gutsy crew is wiring the spring together. The jerry-rigged spring has failed, and the determined crew is frantically searching for a replacement.
Miss Jenny Withers from Anaheim, California. Mechanic to navigate with Mr. Scott Bergen of the Harris Foundation. Is that an incredible machine? Let's raise the roof, New York. Come on. That car just came home.
From the finish line in New York City, this is Phil Cole for the Interstate Batteries Great American Race Hotline. Frank Klepp's remarkable 05 Stevens Duryea takes home $25,000 as the oldest car to finish. Rookie Jack Beadle of Scottsdale, Arizona, brings up 9th place, and Jack wins $5,000 as Goodyear Rookie of the Year. In 5th place, after a critical error, is Florida's Team Lester at 28 seconds. They're 1 second behind rookie navigator Janine Jones and her father Stan, whose 4th place is only 5 seconds away from $100,000. That emergency repair job held up for Alan Travis and Wayne Stanfield. They win 3rd place with a 25-second score. Dick Burdick and Wayne Bell just miss winning by an eyelash. They're number 2 at 24 seconds. And the grand champions of the Interstate Batteries Great American Race, winning $100,000, are Ron Hazlett and Dave Teeter in the 36 Packard with 22 seconds.
In the last 2 years, I spent a great number of hours in my car practicing, doing the kinds of things that I thought would have improved my skills to win this event again. I think they paid off today.
After 3 frustrating years, Dr. Bob Fusen and Big Thunder pull off what is to them the biggest win of all, finishing.
We always go for the intangible. We've never gone for the tangible. We never go for money because we know we don't really have a chance. But we sort of like the idea that we're going for a symbol, which I think the great race is becoming. And that is, you know, people have the Statue of Liberty. They've got the Alamo in Texas. They've got, you know, the Golden Gate Bridge. They've sort of got the Great American Race. And we got a little part of that, and that's the fire truck. And people relate to the fire truck as they relate to other symbols. That's part of America that makes it great.
And here at the finish line, we haven't seen Goodyear's Wingfoot Express or Dot 16. At last report, they were both sidelined somewhere in Pennsylvania and are probably out of the race.
今からパレードが来たら30分ぐらいで終わっちゃうでしょう。
Bringing her home, Yukio Suzuki and the Dot 16 crew may have pulled off the biggest win of all, finishing. The Great American Race is grown up now, and what began 4 years ago as a battle for survival is now the definitive old car competition. And although that has changed over the years, one thing has remained the same: the open arms of America. You know, Lady Liberty has been a pretty gracious hostess here in New York City, but she's had a lot of practice at greeting guests. And I guess it's not so surprising that America has followed her lead so capably. For these competitors, win, lose, or DNF, there is one reason for them to come back for more: American hospitality. From California to New York City, they have seen the best of what this country has to offer. So keep the porch light on, America, because next year, the Great American Race is coming back for more.
Spacious skies, amber waves of grain, purple mountain majesty. You know,